This is Kimberly Reuter, business advisor and supply chain expert, and welcome to my podcast, The Morning Moves, everything supply chain leadership and life. A couple episodes ago, I started a series about supply chain and customer experience. One of my passions, honestly, disappointed in myself, it took the song for me to tackle that subject because it is something that I speak about as a keynote speaker quite often. And the reason I speak about it and the reason I'm passionate about it is that very few companies, even e commerce organizations, directly tie CSAT and supply chain. CSAT normally focuses on, website penetration, duration on website, conversion, loyalty, things like that. But not often do organizations directly take that data and take it back to supply chain and how it affects the supply chain. Or better yet, how supply chain affects it. So that's why I speak about this with great frequency. And while we are doing a four-part series on it, I just remembered we may do five because reverse logistics just popped into my head. So we may get a bonus add on for this particular series. So we talked about inbound, and my big takeaway for you people on the inbound is if you ain't got it, you can't sell it. So, end of story. Inbound matters. And if you want to know more about my thoughts on inbound and supply chain and customer experience, go listen to that episode. It was pretty damn good. But today we are going to talk about outbound and outbound supply chain and the customer experience. So, first and foremost, I want to kind of take a little pause here, a little side step, little side trail. I recently saw something on LinkedIn where someone in a very clever infographic had separated supply chain and logistics. And they were kind of calling out the difference between supply chain and logistics. And I want to just pause here because as supply chain becomes a career path and universities actually have degrees in this shit now, and it's something people actually talk about, people are starting to sort of fancify it. And when I came up in supply chain, here's how we define supply chain. If it moved, it was in supply chain. End of story. Okay. If it was not a stationary object and it was moving, in transit for any purpose, it was supply chain. So now when we hear people who are like, "Oh, well, it's logistics." It's not, it's bullshit. It's all supply chain. Don't get hung up on this. Don't get hung up on the new marketing of supply chain. And that's what I'm seeing a lot of. So I digress. We'll talk about that later. I do have an episode coming up on jargon where we will tackle this particular issue because again, I'm gonna save my tag phrase for that episode because I don't want to ruin it because it's a good one. Okay. So back to outbound. So inbound tag phrase, you ain't got it. You can't sell it. Outbound, it's not really a tag phrase, it's more philosophy. The outbound is it is the only physical experience your customer has with your e-commerce business. It is the only touch. It is the only time that you touch your customer is an outbound. So outbound happens after the customers come to your website, they've placed an order, it has gone through your order management system, you actually have the inventory, their credit card processed, and boom, order drops into the queue at the warehouse. Also, depending on what kind of organization you're in, there may have been some distribution and order management, order optimization software that happened that decided where to actually send the order, which warehouse to send it to based on inventory levels and proximity to the customer. That's how that shit works. So, order is now at the warehouse. This is the beginning of outbound. So, first and foremost, I got to put it out there because I'm seeing some slacking happen and I'm calling you out on it. Table stakes is fulfillment within 24 hours. Okay. So for most companies out there, when I am coming to your website, I'm expecting my order to be fulfilled within 24 hours. Amazon set that standard way, way back. We're going to talk about how all that happened. But that is the expectation. that is market table stakes is 24-hour fulfillment. I am seeing companies now take 48 hours for fulfillment, which in my book is not acceptable. And my most favorite is printing the label, but not actually giving it to the carrier for a few days. That's my ultimate favorite. Like, we're gonna let you think that we fulfilled it in 24 hours, but we actually, yeah, we put it in a box, but we didn't actually give it to anybody. That's total bullshit too. But 24 hours for most company, and I keep saying most companies because we're gonna come back to this, is acceptable. Anything longer than that, you better have a damn good reason. So that's number one in outbound is 24-hour fulfillment. Now, there's a whole bunch of shit that has to happen before 24-hour fulfillment: warehouse operations, stowage, inventory management, fulfillment management, picking management, box management, all of that. Okay. That happens before it goes in the box. So those are all very important things. Fortunately, inside warehouse management is not my area of expertise. Yes, I do know about it. Yes, I've managed it. Yes, I've optimized them, but it is not an area that I've spent most of my career in. So mostly that's kind of that's a magic box. We're going to leave that over there. And maybe we do. We have Brian, our 3PL expert, who's going to come in and talk to us about warehouses. So he will drop you with some expertise there and fill my gap. Wait, that sounded really weird. Okay, let it go. So 24-hour fulfillment. And why do I keep saying most companies? Here's why. Promise date. Amazon introduced the concept of a promise date almost 20 years ago. And I'm going to try to get the guy who worked on promise date on this podcast as part of my Architect series because it's a really interesting story. So, up until Amazon had promise date, what you had was an estimated delivery date. And most companies still kind of operated on an estimated delivery date. They don't make you a promise date. And so Amazon was the first to make a delivery promise date. And that shifted a lot of things on both ends. For the carrier, for e-commerce companies, well, not on both ends, on all the ends, and the customer. That's 3 ends. So we have a triangle. For the consumer, it did the math. So up until this point, when I ordered something and pretty much everything was fulfilled in with 24 hours and I wanted it by a certain date, I needed to add, right? So I'm going to order on Thursday, hopefully it gets it on Friday, and I need it by Wednesday. So I'm going to need 2-day shipping. You had to figure out how fast you needed it. It wasn't until Amazon started with promise date that the actual, not even the carrier wasn't even doing it. The actual retailer did the math. The retailer did the math for you. And this was a big step. And it was actually Jeff's big motivation. And I remember him saying this, like, why should the customer do the math? Why should I have to figure out when it's going to get here? Why can't you tell me? So how Promise Date came about and how perfecting this outbound experience came about and it was one of the true Amazon projects that started with the customer and worked backwards. If I'm going to promise you that if you make this order today, that you will get it by Wednesday, what do I have to do as the retailer and the fulfiller, the e-commerce company? What do I have to do to make that happen? What kind of process do I have to put in place to ensure that your package arrives when I promised you? Yep, flipped it on its head. So now all of a sudden, Amazon's running around. How long does it take for us to fulfill an order? How long does it take it to get in a box? How long does it take us to pick? How long does it take it to get in a truck? How long does the truck take to get to the thing? And so now, in order to accomplish this, we needed to understand every single aspect of order fulfillment and delivery. Everything. Pick speed, boxing speed, loading in containers. How many containers can we get? How many trucks can we get? Gaylords, distribution, getting it in a truck. How long does it take the truck to get to the distribution center? How long does it sit in a distribution center? How long? Every single aspect of the outbound supply chain had to be broken down and measured. And then it was optimized. So this predated 2-day delivery. This was before Prime, and this what kind of led to Prime delivery and 2-day delivery. Was the precursor to that, was the promised delivery date. That's what it took to build it. And I'm hoping I'm going to have the guy who built it in here to talk to you about the details. But that was the evolution of outbound for e-commerce. And Amazon set the bar. And Amazon truly understood that in your entire Amazon experience, the only time I am physically going to touch you is when you receive my box, when you receive your package. And they took that very seriously, especially when we started doing promise dates, especially when Amazon built its own logistics network, which hopefully you've turned in to hear Torsten and I talk about the architects and how he built Amazon logistics. But truly what it was about was down to measuring every single last bit of what happened in outbound and honoring and respecting that that was the customer's only physical experience. And here are some statistics that will help you understand why outbound matters so much. 80% of new customers will not return if they have a bad fulfillment experience. Bad fulfillment experiences equal late, didn't arrive, broken, smashed, didn't look good, something missing. All of those are supply chain issues. All of those impact a customer experience. 80% of new customers will not return. 50% of customers will not return if they have multiple bad experiences. The market has become so saturated with e-commerce. Free shipping, free delivery within 5 days has become table stakes. The customer will go somewhere else. So even if you did all the fancy shit with the website and the product pages and the videos and the marketing and all that crap, and even if your inbound supply chain was absolutely flawless, if you fuck up that delivery, none of it matters. None of it actually matters. Any goodwill, any positive experience, anything is completely washed down the drain. And I have like novels of stories about misdeliveries. Probably one of the most impactful and most memorable was when I was at Nordstrom and we missed delivery on a funeral dress for the deceased. Yeah, that was a rough one. Because I mean, there's really no way to kind of make that better. It was an end of game kind of play. So your last mile matters. Your outbound matters. 24-hour fulfillment or less for most companies. And here's why I keep coming back to that. When you're working with promise date, it doesn't matter. That's where Amazon started to shift the game. And that's why I wanted to talk about this in conjunction to the 24 hours. When Amazon really flipped the script was when they started to say, well, I'm going to give you options on what day do you want this at your house. You just tell me what day you want it at your house. Here's you can have it this day, or this day. Normally you get 3. And then that's it. And if there's a cost associated with getting it to your house in one of these 3 options, we'll tell you what that is. But that's all. You don't pick the method. You don't determine when it ships out. You just tell me when you want it. Amazon does the math. And this is where this some company 24-hour thing kicks in, all right? Because if Amazon tells me that I'm going to get my package on Friday and I'm cool with that and it's on Monday, there's no reason to fulfill that order in 24 hours. There just isn't. So Amazon flipped the script. Now, most companies have not been able to master this, which is why the 24-hour rule still applies for you. But if you're able to flip the script and give a promise date, then you are in control of fulfillment. Then you determine the shipping speed. And what Amazon was able to do, this launched so many capabilities for Amazon around inventory placement, milk runs, multiple fulfillment inventory fulfillment, multiple fulfillment order fulfillment, which is multiple products from multiple fulfillment centers in the same order. Those were the milk runs. All of this, working from the promise date backwards, completely opened up how Amazon could manage outbound supply chain. And it all started with the customer, which is the beauty of it all. Outbound matters. It is the only physical time that you will touch your customer. It is their only experience. Another data point for you. You don't think outbound matters? Go to any 1-star review on any e-commerce website. Go read the 1 stars and the 2-star reviews. Almost all of them have a fulfillment complaint. Didn't arrive, missing something, broken, smashed, leaking, half empty, endless, whatever the issues are. All fulfillment issues. All 100% fulfillment issues. Nothing to do with the quality of the product, nothing to do with the efficacy of the product, nothing to do with the beauty of the product, anything, the value, nothing. All of that product development, product manufacturing, marketing, product pages, websites, all of that wiped out. Did not arrive on time. I don't even give a shit about the product. I don't care if it's a good product, bad product, kind of product. I'm not even talking about the product now, but I am leaving a 1-star review on your product page about your product because it didn't get here. That's why fulfillment matters. It shows up in all aspects of the customer experience, everywhere. And there are avenues for that now. Avenues to build and give feedback around, I had a bad fulfillment experience and I don't want to buy that product again. Not because the product was bad, but because I had a bad fulfillment experience. So how do you know if you're succeeding in outbound? What can you do to make sure that you're succeeding in outbound? Number one, 24-hour fulfillment. I've already said it. I'm not going to say it again. Most warehouse operations out there are working within 24 hours, waves versus batches. That's kind of basic. There's all kinds of warehouse chaos theory and picking order and all kinds of software out there. Like I said, we will have some experts come in and talk about that. But 24-hour fulfillment is absolutely necessary. You need to have accurate, predictable shipping. And this is the other thing that has flipped in e-commerce and the outbound. Outbound in e-commerce used to be about cost. Free shipping, 11 days. Honey, 11 days later, I forgot I bought that shit. I thought it was a gift. I was excited. I had a secret. No, I bought it. 11 days was the average shipping time way back when. For free shipping, that was the average was 11 days. And so shipping back then was a price play, cost play. I got free shipping. I mean, normally it costs me $20. I'm excited and I'm going to wait for 2 fucking weeks to get it. And I'm going to be happy about it. Because by those are 11 business days, not calendar days. If you've ever had a shipment lost, you've known that discussion. So we flipped the script. Shipping is no longer about cost. It is about predictability. Because when I have made you a promise, so I'm going to be there on Wednesday, I have to make sure it's there on Wednesday. So when Amazon switched, the focus has always been on cost and will always be on cost. I do not want to make it sound like all of a sudden Amazon didn't think about cost because we did. But the focus was on predictability. It has to get there in 2 days. We started measuring delivery times. Did we make the promised delivery date? Not transit time. No. No longer are we measuring transit time. We are measuring, did we meet the promise date? Totally different discussion. And in order to do that, you need to make sure that you understand how long every single aspect of your supply chain takes from when that order drops till it meets the customer's door. And in today's world, that's 3 days or less. 10 years ago, that was some expedited shipping shit that cost you like $50 extra. Today, 3 days or less is average order fulfillment. That's some tight shit. And you have to make that cost effective. And that takes a whole other S&OP, planning, order management, order just omni-channel fulfillment, omni-inventory management are all aspects of outbound and order fulfillment in today's e-commerce environment. It is no longer warehouses and boxes. It's store back rooms. It's mini FCs. It's vacant malls. It's people's garages. Fulfillment happens everywhere today. And it all has to be held together. 24-hour fulfillment. You have to have it. You have to measure, are you getting the product delivered to the customer when you said you would? When you told them they would get it, did it get delivered on the day? Not an estimate. And are you using quality, controllable, predictable last mile carriers? It's not about cost anymore. It's about predictability. Because that missed delivery that you saved $2 on the package just cost you $42 in product. And they ain't coming back. Those are my words on outbound and customer experience. It matters. It is the only physical touch the customer has in e-commerce. It's you touching your customer. Think about that. All right, y'all. We'll talk tomorrow.